All right, I'm going to ask you to turn to Ecclesiastes chapter 6 tonight. Ecclesiastes chapter 6, and called the message, When Life Leaves You Empty. Life promises so many thrills, so many excitements, so many sources of satisfaction, and yet how often does life just leave you feeling empty? You pursue those pleasures, you pursue those promises of fulfillment, and then you find them to be hollow. You find them just to have no substance whatsoever. It's like if you tried to walk across the river and you've got rocks or logs that are there and you think you've got something stable and it looks like a good next step, and then you step on it and it completely capsizes, which causes you to capsize and get wetter than you planned on that particular trip. Life tends to be like that. We think that, all right, this is a good step to take. This is a good solid step. This is going to meet my needs. This is going to do what I want, what I expect. And then we take that step and we end up drenched. We end up miserable because we took a wrong step. Solomon is going to continue a thought on riches. We looked at that last week. But again, a reminder, Solomon is not anti-riches, nor is God. He's clear in fact, in chapter 5, verse 19, that that's a gift from God. God hath given riches and wealth. It's what happens once they are given that determines whether it's a problem or not. The love of money is the root of all evil. The idolatry, the worship of those things becomes a problem, not having them themselves. And what we'll see through chapter 6 tonight are individuals who have built up so much for themselves, thinking that was going to give them satisfaction, thinking that they could just coast through life having these things, and then they end up not even being able to enjoy them. Building up a lifetime of resources only to die and have somebody else take it over, and you don't get to enjoy the fruit of it. Incredible vanity, incredible emptiness when our source of satisfaction is not God. Unfortunately, we get suckered into seeking satisfaction from the world regularly. I don't fish. I know some of you like to fish. I'm not a fisherman. I went as a early teen, would go out sometimes with my dad. He bought us a couple of fishing poles and some lures, and he had the tackle box and he had all that stuff. I didn't go because I enjoyed fishing. I went because I enjoyed spending time on a Saturday morning with my dad. And so I'd go and I'd hang out with Dad for a couple hours at a lake. Neither of us would catch anything, but we'd have a good time there. Had a lot of good conversations and just a good one-on-one time with Dad. Aaron, my brother, did not care to go, and so he stayed in bed and slept in, which suited him fine. It would have suited me fine too, but I wanted to spend time with Dad, so I did what I did. But I have not fished in a long time, and I'm okay with that. I don't mean that to hurt anybody who's a fisherman. I'm just not. But what I do understand about fishing, what anybody understands about fishing, is that you've got to offer a deadly but tantalizing promise for those fish. You've got to bait the hook in such a way that they believe this is the best meal that I will ever have. Where it's going to be the last meal. If you're a good fisherman, it's going to be probably the last meal that they ever have. And then they're going to become a wonderful next meal that you'll have. I had somebody the other day standing outside of Walmart. This is just an aside about animals and eating, but they asked me, kind of got up in my face pretty obnoxiously, and asked if I was an animal lover, and I needed to get home, and so I just dismissed myself. I said, I've got to get home to my family, I'm sorry. But I was tempted to say, you know what, I do love animals, I love eating them, but I didn't know that would go over too well. I didn't know what he was trying to sell or anything like that. So I steered away from that. That thought came to mind afterward. But you bait the hook, getting back on track here, that you bait the hook for the fish because you want the fish to believe this is a good thing, and so you're hiding death, you're hiding that hook, which is going to cause pain, which is going to cause bondage for the brief time that fish survives the trip from the lake or the river or the ocean up into your boat, into the cooler. And it believes this is what I need to be satisfied. It takes the bait and it finds death. It finds the exact opposite of satisfaction. And folks, when we give in to the temptations of this life, believing that this will make me feel fulfilled, This will make me feel fulfilled. This will make me feel fulfilled. If it's not God, guess what? It's going to leave you feeling empty. God has given you the ability to interact with His creation in a way that you can sense it and enjoy it. So He is all for us enjoying things, but they are to be enjoyed His way, according to His will, for His glory. And what we'll see tonight is just another reminder of how empty and how wicked really it is to put our focus, our attention on things that are not God. First, we need to consider the curse. I'm going to read the entire chapter here of Ecclesiastes 6. There is an evil which I have seen under the sun, and it is common among men. A man to whom God hath given, here it is again, God gave them, so it's okay. God hath given riches, wealth, and honor, so that he wanteth or lacketh nothing for his soul of all that he desireth, yet God giveth him not power to eat thereof, but a stranger eateth it. This is vanity, and it is an evil disease. If a man beget 100 children, and just reading that gives me a headache and makes me feel exhausted. I have 5 and I love them. I cannot imagine 20 times more. I don't want to imagine 20 times more. Solomon, in all honesty, may have begotten that many. He had 1,000 women that he was involved with. But let's get to his point. If a man beget 100 children and live many years, so that the days of his years be many, and his soul be not filled with good, and also that he have no burial, I say that an untimely birth is better than he. For he cometh in with vanity, and departeth in darkness, and his name shall be covered with darkness. He'll be forgotten. Moreover, he hath not seen the sun, nor known anything. This hath more rest than the other. Yea, though he live 1,000 years twice told, so 2,000 years, yet hath he seen no good. Do not all go to one place, that is death, to the grave? The answer is yes. All the labor of man is for his mouth, and yet the appetite is not filled. For what hath the wise more than the fool? What hath the poor that knoweth to walk before the living? Better is the sight of the eyes than the wandering of the desire. This also is vanity and vexation of spirit. That which hath been is named already, and it is known that it is man. Neither may he contend with him that is mightier than he. Seeing there be many things that increase vanity, what is man the better? For who knoweth what is good for man in this life, all the days of his vain life, which he spendeth as a shadow? For who can tell a man what shall be after him under the sun? First, we'll see fruitless labor. Solomon describes the grievous evil in which a man is granted wealth and riches and honor, and yet is not able to enjoy those blessings, and another person ultimately consumes them. How frustrating is it to spend your life accumulating things, hoping that those things will give you validity, will give you meaning, will define you, and then you die, and those things stay here. There is no point to it. A treasure hoard for the dead doesn't help the dead. I've mentioned how the Egyptians, the pyramids, which are fun to behold. I've seen pictures. I don't know if anybody's ever been to Egypt. I'd like to go. It'd be fascinating to see those in person. But those were built as enormous burial places for pharaohs. And they were filled with riches, with food, with women, so that in the afterlife, the pharaohs would have everything that they needed to enjoy the afterlife. The problem is that they died and they went to the afterlife, but there was no enjoyment in hell. And those things stayed there and rotted away. And those treasures remained buried and unusable until they were discovered, and much of it was put in museums where it cannot be spent. What's the point? What's the point of living for yourself? What's the point of accumulating all these things and not using it for the glory of God? Material prosperity without the ability to enjoy it ultimately becomes a burden rather than a blessing. I want you to look at Luke chapter 12 and verse 15, please. Just hold your spot here. Look at Luke 12:15. And he said unto them, Take heed and beware of covetousness, for man's life consisteth not in the abundance of things which he possesseth. Your things, your wealth, whatever you have, your health, your positions, even your relationships, are not ultimately what define you primarily. What should give you meaning and what should define you and give you purpose is your relationship with God. Other things are good things. I love being the husband of my wife. I love being the father of my children. And those relationships are the most important human relationships that I have. But they are not my primary definition. My primary definition is child of the King, believer in Christ, saved by grace through faith. That defines me. That means more to me. It must mean more to me. It must, by the way, mean more to you than human relationships. God gives us those as a great blessing, and my human relationships are a blessing. But my relationship with God is eternal. My relationship with God is primary, and it must. By the way, if your relationship with God is not right, your relationship with other people is not going to be right. There will be a fracture in everything else that you do if your relationship with God is fractured. And if your life is all about accumulating things, thinking that those things will give you purpose, you will find that they leave you feeling empty and in need of more. To try to get more purpose. I bought this, I felt happy for a little bit, and then I got tired of it, so I need to buy something else and buy more some things so that I can have an increase in dopamine, so I can have an increase in happiness, and those things don't satisfy, and so I need to get more things. It's addiction, but to spending money instead of on substances, and both are dangerous. So there is fruitless labor. We must avoid it. There is fleeting fulfillment. Look back in Ecclesiastes chapter 6, and we'll look at verses 3 through 6. If a man beget 100 children and live many years, so that the days of his years be many, and his soul be not filled with good, and also that he have no burial, I say that an untimely birth is better than he. For he cometh in with vanity and departeth in darkness, and his name shall be covered with darkness. Moreover, he hath not seen the sun, nor known anything. This hath more rest than the other. And I said, go through verse 6. So here's verse 6. Though he live 1,000 years twice told, yet hath he seen no good. Do not all go to one place. Solomon here presents an example, an extreme example of a man who lives many years and fathers 100 children and yet never finds satisfaction and then just dies without honor. Solomon says that an untimely birth is better than a life lived like that because of length of days. Ultimately, length of days means little if those days are devoid of purpose and joy. If God has given you longevity, and there are some in here, not to be insensitive in any way, but God has given the gift of longevity. We who are younger are appreciative of that. We love those who the Lord has given that longevity. We get the blessing of your fellowship and your wisdom and the experience that God has given you. And I'm not trying to be mean, okay? I truly am thankful and very respectful of those who are older and God has given many years. Longevity has run in my family. I had a great-great-aunt who lived to be 103. I've had great-grandparents who lived to their mid-90s. That's no guarantee that I will. I hope Christ comes back long before I have to get that old. Because living 2,000 years imperfectly seems like more of a curse than a blessing. And I think that's Solomon's point. You could have so many years, but if those years are not filled with joy and with the purpose of God, then those years are a drag. They're a waste. I have heard testimony from people who are older than me that getting older hurts more. And I'm finding that out as I get older. It's hurting more than it did. I hurt more than I did. And I'm only 39 than I did when I was 20. Standing up hurts sometimes. Crouching down hurts sometimes. Getting out of bed hurts. Being in bed hurts. You never know what's going to happen. But if the many years that God gives you are full of self, full of empty pursuits, then those are wasted years. And I believe that Solomon lived many wasted years, got to a point where he was older. He was advanced in years, looking back at a lifetime that, boy, you look at Solomon when he first became king and you think, boy, this is going to be the best king that Israel has ever had. He's going to outshine his father. He has more wisdom than his father. He has more material possessions than his father. Solomon is going to be the David 2.0. This is going to be the best thing ever. And then what does he do? He turns his heart to ungodliness. He turns his heart to strange women and to false gods. And his heart is torn away, and he starts pursuing all of these things under the sun, finding that the only thing that will give him purpose is God, who is above the sun. Christ came. In fact, I want you to look at John 10:10. Christ did not come so we can and give us the gift of life so that we could waste our life on things. John 10:10, the thief cometh not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. I am come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly. An abundant life is not one that is lived for self. An abundant life is one that is lived for Christ. And you will waste your life, you will waste your time if you do anything else. Second, we need to confront the craving. Back in Ecclesiastes 6, we'll see persistent pursuit. Solomon observes that all man's labors are for his mouth, and yet his appetite is never satisfied. Sometimes parents of young people feel that this is the case with their children. They eat and they eat and they eat, and they're never satisfied, and the bank account gets drained just to keep your child eating. We have several, and so we're seeing that start to take place. But we live just to feed ourselves, just to keep pouring into ourselves, and there's no satisfaction. There's no happiness. There's no true joy there. The world teaches that happiness is always just one more purchase away or one more promotion away, one more experience away, and yet the soul continually longs for something more because the soul was created to be satisfied by God, not by things or experiences. God allows us to have things. He allows us to have experiences. We enjoy those, but we enjoy them for God's glory. Contentment with what God has provided is far better than consistently chasing what we do not have. That's what this world does, isn't it? Our society is so materialistic. Our society is so focused on, I've got to have the next best thing. The technological field exists as it does now with that mindset. You've got to get a new phone every 2 days because the software for your old phone is not going to work anymore. And you've got to get the next best thing and pay $2 million for a new iPhone 27 or whatever they're up to now. Because if you don't get that new phone, boy, you're in the Stone Age, and you're not going to be able to talk to people, and you're not going to be covered all over the world. Every provider has their commercials that our service is going to cover the whole nation. And no matter which provider you have, you always find dead spots. You don't see dead spots on their commercial maps. It's all purple, or it's all green or blue, or whatever colors their company is. You find the dead zones everywhere. There are a lot of them out in Bluffton, I found when I worked out there. We think that things are going to satisfy us. We think that just pursuing one more thing, that another car, another this, another that is going to make me feel better about myself. It's not. You get that, and what happens? You have more responsibility for that. And then that new car is going to break down, and that new house is going to fall apart. This, that, or the other that you think is going to bring you satisfaction, that new phone, as soon as you get it, you're going to drop it and crack the screen, and you're going to have to buy a new phone. And we pursue all those things. You think a promotion is going to make you happy and give you a sense of purpose and make your life better, and it may mean that you have more money coming into your bank account, but it also means more headaches because you've got more responsibility. Things were never meant to satisfy us ultimately. Ultimately, Christ intends to do that. I want you to look at Philippians chapter 4 and verse 11. Our society would do well to get a hold of this verse. We as believers would do well to get a hold of this verse. Not that I speak in respect of want, for I have learned in whatsoever state I am, therewith to be content. He spent the previous verses talking about how he had experienced times of abundance. He'd experienced times of great lack. The Bible uses the word want. It just means to lack. He had been on both ends of the spectrum, and he learned because his satisfaction wasn't in the things that he had or didn't have. His satisfaction was in the Lord, that no matter what he had or didn't have, he was always satisfied because he had God. And he trusted that God would give him what he needed when he needed it. Are we content? Or are we always looking for more? There's powerless perception. We need to be aware of our own inability here. Look back at Ecclesiastes 6, and I have verse 10 up there. That which hath been is named already, and it is known that it is man. Neither may he contend with him that is mightier than he. Solomon concludes by acknowledging man's inability to contend with God or to fully understand the future, to know what is to come. The things that have already been named, already been decided by the Lord, and we don't know those things. We don't understand them. We cannot control tomorrow. Does that frustrate you? Does that ever frustrate you that you can't control tomorrow? How many of you would like to be able to control tomorrow? Okay. I'd love to. I mean, we all have plans. I've got a schedule. I've got things that I hope to accomplish tomorrow, both here and at home. I have no idea if any of that is going to be done. I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. A number of times, Charity and I will talk, and I'll know that, okay, she had this and this that she hoped to get done, and then I get home at the end of the day, and she'll say, I didn't get to any of it, because parenting took over, as it does. We just don't know. We wish we could control those things. We don't like that which we cannot control, and yet we have to understand and come to peace with the fact that even though we can't control it, God is perfectly able to control it. He's got it all in his hands, and he's going to work all things together for what he says is good. And we have to have faith to accept that. Look at James 4 and verse 14, please. James 4:14. Whereas ye know not what shall be on the morrow. For what is your life? It is even a vapor that appeareth for a little time and then vanisheth away. I have illustrated this with breathing when it's cold outside. We've had, for the last 2 winters, we've had snow, which has to be some kind of a record for the low country. I don't know. I've been down here, I moved down in 2012, so August of this year will be 14 years that I've lived in this area. I came from Michigan where we had snow every winter. So nothing special about it. It was more unusual not to have snow than it was to have snow. Coming down here was the exact opposite. There are 3 times that I can think of in the 14 years that I've lived here that there has been significant snow. And when it gets cold, whether it's cold enough to snow, or whether we get snow is seldom, but we often have cold enough temperatures that you can breathe and you see that vapor. And it's fascinating. You breathe it out and wow, I can see it. And so you have kids out there and maybe some adults that they want to see their breath, but then it just disappears as it cools down with the climate. It's empty, and James is saying your life is a vapor. It looks like it has some substance, but no sooner do you breathe it out that it just disappears. You don't see it any longer, and in the grand scheme of eternity, our life is brief. What are you doing with it? I've heard it said that your life, and this is an oversimplification, but it gives you perspective. Your life is a dash between 2 dates. The date that you're born and the day you die. What are you doing with your dash? What are you doing with your life? What are you filling in that gap with? You are powerless to control it, so the sooner we can come to grips with the fact that we don't have control, the sooner we can have faith in our Lord, the better our life will be and the more peace we'll have while we live with the uncontrollable, knowing that God has everything under control. I want us to see the antidote for these problems, and it is to choose contentment. And this comes with faithful fellowship. I want you to look in the Psalms at this point, Psalm 16 and verse 11. Since life is so brief and uncertain, the greatest priority is walking closely with God. As you have found out by now, contentment does not come from circumstances. It comes from communion with the Lord. Psalm 16, verse 11. Thou wilt show me the path of life. In thy presence is fullness of joy. At thy right hand there are pleasures forevermore. Doesn't it sound to you like it's really good to get close to God? It's really good. There's a reason that the psalmist wrote in Psalm 34, taste and see that the Lord is good. The closer you get, the better you see him. The closer you get, the more you see he's worth getting closer to. He's not scary. He's not somebody I need to keep distant from. He is somebody who says, draw near to me and I will draw near to you. And the closer we get, the better we see him, the more we want him. In his presence is fullness of joy. Many things in life promise that, but do not fulfill. Even relationships. You may have the best marriage ever, but there are times where there is a lack of joy because you've got two sinners living under the same roof, trying to be sanctified. And sometimes it works, sometimes it does not. And you love each other, but you may not like each other very much for a brief moment. But in the presence of the Lord, there is fullness of joy. There is complete joy, unending joy, that even the closest human relationship cannot provide. No amount of money will provide fullness of joy. Only God's presence will. So, get closer to the Lord. Look over at Philippians chapter 3 and verse 10. The Apostle Paul, saved out of being a Pharisee, a religious zealot, one who, as a Pharisee and a zealous one at that, pursued the death of many Christians. His life defined by those things listed in verses 5 and 6. But after his salvation, none of those things mattered. In fact, in verse 7, he said, "But what things were gain to me, those things that mattered the most to me, those I counted loss for Christ." He was more than happy to let go of those things because they no longer mattered. They no longer had any purpose. Now what mattered, just fast forwarding a little bit to verse 10, "that I may know him and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his sufferings, being made conformable unto his death." The Apostle Paul came around to the point that he realized the best thing for me is to get closer to God and to know him better. Better than knowing another person, better than knowing my craft or job better than knowing anything else is knowing Christ better. You will never, ever regret time spent getting to know the Lord. Ever. It will never be a waste of time. You may spend a significant amount of time learning about other things. Those of us who work, you have to learn about your job. You have to be proficient at your job, and so that takes study. It takes practice. It takes learning. It takes maybe, in many cases, going to classes. Working alongside somebody who can mentor you, who can kind of guide you in how to do your job and understand that field better. And because you have that job, that is good to know those things, but we also fill our heads, and I have to claim guilt in this, we also fill our heads with knowledge that will get us absolutely nowhere, except maybe an answer or two on Jeopardy if you're watching. I have a lot of trivia, and it does me a lot of good in random conversations, but ultimately it's not going to matter too much. What's going to bring satisfaction is not just knowing more than the next person, but knowing more about Christ. Make that your focus, fellowship with Him. Finally here, we need to have a focused faithfulness. The answer to the vanity that Solomon describes is not found under the sun but above it. It's found with God Himself. Believers are commanded to set their affection on things above and not things on the earth. We'll go to two passages here. First is Proverbs chapter 4. Proverbs chapter 4 and verses 23 and 20 through 27. "Keep thy heart with all diligence. Guard it with all you've got. For out of it are the issues of life. Put away from thee a froward mouth, and perverse lips put far from thee. Let thine eyes look right on, and let thine eyelids look straight before thee. Ponder the path of thy feet, and let all thy ways be established. Turn not to the right hand, nor to the left. Remove thy foot from evil." What happens when you're driving and you see something off to the side, something interesting? You see a sign that may have something that you like, food or a place or a phrase or something, and you start looking at that and you start gawking at it. What happens to your car typically? You start to move. Either you go toward what you're looking at, or you overcompensate and you're looking this way and you're driving this way into a lane and you bump into somebody or you hear angry horns or whatnot. One of my most frustrating things is when you're driving along and there's an accident and you get into a habit of praying for those who are in the accident, but it's on the other side of the highway. And yet your side is backed up because everybody has to look over the cement median to see what happened. And you're in a hurry to get home. You've been on vacation, and you're tired, and your kids are getting hungry, and they've got to go to the bathroom. Maybe you do too. And you're waiting and waiting and waiting. And there's an hour of traffic because there's something on the other side of the highway that people really, really have to see. He's telling you, just keep your eyes focused straight ahead. Don't get distracted. You will move in the direction of your heart. You will move in the direction that you're looking. If your heart's not looking right at the Lord, if you're looking at peripheral things and making those your focus instead of God as your focus, you're going to get lost. You're going to go astray. So guard your heart. The devil wants your heart. This world wants your heart. Don't give your heart away. Let your heart belong faithfully to the Lord. And then finally here, Colossians chapter 3. Colossians 3, verse 2. Set your affection on things above, not on things on the earth. And the idea of setting your affection is just to have it established, have it firmly entrenched. You're not going to move. You're not going to budge. You have it focused on things above, not on things on the earth. God has given us things on earth to enjoy for His glory, but we must not focus on them because they cannot be God. They cannot satisfy. Where's your focus? Ecclesiastes 6 is a solemn warning against seeking satisfaction apart from God. Solomon had tasted everything the world had to offer, and he discovered that riches, honor, long life, and human wisdom could not fill the emptiness of the human heart. They could not fill the space in the heart that was created for God to occupy. It could not. The tragedy is not that a man may have too little, but that he has everything except for the Lord. Without God, life is empty. With God, life has meaning, and has more meaning than you could ever understand. Maybe you've spent too much time pursuing success, pursuing possessions or pleasures, only to discover that the soul still longs for something more. You get what you wanted, and it's not enough. It's never enough, is it? Some of the wealthiest people in the world, they get their wealth, they get what they thought would give them meaning and satisfaction, and then they realize, I could do a little bit more. I could use a little bit more, you know. What's another billion? What's another trillion? You know, that'll make me a little bit more happy. I could do more with more. And if that's their focus, they're going to, even if they get that million or billion or trillion, they're going to be empty because they don't have God. If that is their focus. Now, if someone's saved and God gives them that money, great. They could use it for the glory of the Lord. And I know what you're thinking. Maybe they can send some my way. Don't waste your life. Augustine said, our hearts are restless until they find their rest in Thee, that is God. Jesus Christ alone can satisfy the deepest need of your soul. Your spouse will not. Your children will not. Your job will not. Politics certainly will not. Nor will anybody who holds any political office. The world offers so much and yet never delivers. How frustrating is that? You see something advertised, you go to buy it, and then you find out it is false advertising. Like the ice cream bars on the side of an ice cream truck, they never look like what you get. You open up that overpriced ice cream, and it's all contorted and half-shapen. It's never what you expected it to be. You see this beautiful picture of a character or of whatever, and then you open it up, and it's a blob of ice cream. Okay, it tastes good, but it doesn't look like what it's supposed to. And we pursue things and think they're going to give us what we want, and they're going to give us satisfaction. They're going to make us matter, and they're going to fill the emptiness. We keep pushing God away and wondering why we feel more empty, keep trying to fill things in the place that only God can occupy or should occupy, and we wonder, why am I feeling so miserable? Why can I not be satisfied? And it's because we're not letting God sit on His throne. We've pushed Him off. We're trying to sit there and put other things on that throne instead. Nothing and nobody can satisfy the way God will satisfy. And for our satisfaction, Jesus Christ offers Himself. Isn't that great? Jesus said, I have come to give you abundant life. In my presence there is fullness of joy. Notice David, and I'll finish with this. David, in his sin, obviously got to a point where because he pursued satisfaction elsewhere, he was lacking the joy of his salvation. He had a relationship with the Lord, but it was sour, it was bitter, it was hard. Why was it? It's because he was living in sin. He thought something else could do for him what only God could do for him. And he felt empty. And it was only after he had been confronted and he had confessed that sin and repented and gotten things right that he had the fortitude to cry out to God, "Restore unto me the joy of my salvation." And maybe you're in a point where you need to cry out to the Lord, "Restore the joy of salvation." You're saved, but there's no joy in it because you've been filling your life with other things, hoping that joy will come with each new experience or purchase or person, and they don't because they're not coming in the form of God, and you need to let God satisfy you. When life leaves you empty, remember that only Jesus Christ can make you full. Let's pray. Lord, thank you that you are willing to satisfy us. Thank you that you are willing to provide for our needs in a way that nobody else can. We grow tired sometimes of trusting you. And similarly to the Israelites, freshly out of captivity in Egypt, growing tired of manna, complaining, in their delusion, claiming that they had it better in Egypt than they did with you in the wilderness. And Lord, how easy it is for us to look at the Israelites and just to tisk, 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 how shameful. And yet we act the same way. We get dissatisfied with the satisfaction or with what you've given us. We get discontent. We want more. We want it now. And our world tells us that that's perfectly fine. We could have it now. We could have it our way. And when we have it our way, and the more we have it our way, the emptier we feel. Lord, I pray that you would use this as a course correction for us. That we will no longer seek satisfaction in the accumulation of things or of experiences. We will be satisfied with you, primarily. That we will experience the fullness of joy and an abundant life the closer we get with you, that we will truly taste and see that you are good. It's not just a verse, it's a truth. And I pray that it will be true for each of us. As your heads are bowed and your eyes are closed, Christians, I just want to challenge you and encourage you. Maybe you've been trying to taste and see that other things are good, but they're not. They leave you feeling empty. They leave you dissatisfied. They leave you feeling guilty. I believe that when David wrote that psalm, he had already, to some extent, experienced what happens when you don't taste and see that the Lord is good. And he meant it from his heart, from experience, that the more you experience God, the more you love God and bring him into your life, the better your life will be, and the better your relationship with him will be. You will have fullness of joy. Christian, has the joy of your salvation been absent? Has it been lacking because other things have come in instead? Have been your focus? In his grace, God has shown you that tonight so that you can do something about it. He's shown you that tonight because he loves you and he wants you back. He wants you like the father welcoming his prodigal son. He wants you back. He wants your fellowship. Wrap your mind around that, Christian. God wants to fellowship with you. He wants you closer to him. What a gift. Why not accept his offer to come closer to him tonight? It's going to mean that you have to forsake sin. You have to forsake yourself, maybe wrong pursuits. But the end result is so worth it. A fulfilled life closer to God. You cannot ask for better than that. Lord, I pray that you will help us to seek that, to seek you. In Jesus' name, amen.